you were most surprised by when you became a mom, or that like something that no one tells you, you're not warned about, and you it was like a big surprise. What are some of the things that stuck out to you?
Okay. I would say like the actual process of becoming a mom. So like the birth, people don't really tell you a lot. Like, you go to the birth class and they're like, you have to like, remember it's going to be a lot of pain. And you're like, yeah. Like I've had cramps and like whatever else. Nope. And then way more intense than any sort of cramps I've ever had in my entire life. But also, I feel like this is going to be really TMI. So like if you are grossed out by things, skip ahead 30 seconds. But just like,
don't get pregnant.
Yeah, don't get
good
pregnant.
Luck. Welcome to the Scaries, brought to you by Racer Co. I'm Sky.
And I'm Talitha. We are proudly broadcasting from Treaty 4 territory and the homeland of the Métis. In each episode, we tackle the alarming, inconceivable, questionable, shocking, and scary statistics relating to, impacting, and intervening with the lives of women and girls worldwide.
You'll hear the scary truth, take away tools and tips, and learn about what you can do about it. And the Scaries is an opportunity to raise awareness, share resources, and use our voices as women and supporters of women to make some real change. The views expressed on this podcast are solely our own, especially this one. It's going to be very deep into our own thoughts and feelings. And it's all for entertainment purposes only. We could also be sharing some content or some statistics that could be triggering, so listen with caution.
As straight, cisgender, white, able-bodied settler women, we are aware of the privilege that we have, and we want to use this platform to spread awareness about the scary reality that women from around the world face in different life situations.
And why?
Because sometimes nothing is scarier than being a woman.
All right. So Mother's Day, one of the best times of the year, is around the corner on May 12th, which, honestly, I feel like every day is Mother's Day or should be Mother's Day.
Yeah.
Just like everything else, we got to celebrate all year round. So as moms ourselves and as daughters, of course, we wanted to share our thoughts on this very, very challenging yet very rewarding role as moms.
Dare I say scary role?
Yeah, sometimes scary. I'm not going to lie. Today I had a rough day. I'll tell you about it later. No. It's complex, but it is rewarding. I would say I wouldn't change it for the world. But first, okay, I heard this crazy thing that actually really surprised me. So did you know that more calls are made on Mother's Day than any other day of the year? Like over Christmas, over anything. Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah, I think that's kind of cool.
Well, I wonder if that includes, because like Mother's Day is celebrated on different days, like in different like areas, like in the
different
UK,
places of the world.
Yeah, like they celebrate it like in, I don't know, June or like March or something. But that's wild. I mean, everyone has a mom of some kind, though,
right? Yeah. So it's like, let's acknowledge.
Yeah.
Cheers to that.
Cheers to that. And speaking of which, we have a fun little cocktail today that we are calling Momming So Hard. And we decided we needed a really fancy cocktail because, well, momming is very hard. So this one has fresh net sparkling wine, champagne. I always thought that was pronounced like Frexnet.
I could never pronounce it, but Freshnet.
Freshnet is how you say it. So if you learn something in any in this episode, that's it. Cherry juice, a little bit of splash of rosé vodka, and then some passion fruit bubbly.
Don't mind if I do.
Don't mind if I do. Cheers.
Delish.
I feel like that's like very ASMR.
Oh, I love it.
Hopefully you guys like it. Yeah, it's very good.
So yes, if you're able and if you're of age, please check it out because it's a very good drink. Just like they came up with.
Just hit it up.
Like we kind of said, being a mom and just Mother's Day in itself is rewarding, but it's challenging, and it's tough for some people.
Yeah.
And especially Mother's Day, it can be celebratory for many and exciting, but it can also be tough. It can be, especially for those who are grieving, or a lot of moms just trying to survive, or trying to become moms. Whatever stage of life you're in, it's not always easy. It's not always rosy for everyone. We want to give a shout out before this episode to all of those who are having troubles on Mother's Day, or as Mother's Day approaches and all the buzz and talk about it is out there. So this one's for you. To the one no longer with us, to the one who never got to hold her baby, to the one who is afraid, to the one who is just trying to survive, to the one without any help, to the one yearning to be called a mom, to the one celebrating her first Mother's Day, to the one who cries daily, to the one who lost a child, to the one who feels like no matter what they do, they can't get it right. Mothers are not just defined by their children on earth, but also by the love of a child in their heart, which is so true. Mm-hmm. So to the moms who have their babies and those who have their moms, hold them tight. Love them, pray for them, fight for them, because you have something special. You have a moment to love.
That's so sweet.
It gives me chills. I can't believe I got through that without crying.
I was going to say, I'm surprised that you got through that without crying, actually.
Yeah.
Happy Mother's Day to every mother, every grandmother, every caretaker, all the chosen families, the queer mamas, the genderqueer and trans parents, incarcerated moms, those who wanted to but were unable to be mothers, moms who have lost their children, and children who have lost their mothers. This day is very exciting and, you know, celebratory, but it also can be very hard, and we are aware of that. So if that is a case for you, please stop listening and go hang out with people that will make you happy. So in the spirit of motherhood, we wanted to start off with some rapid fire questions. We haven't done this to each other.
Yes, in a while.
Yeah. So we thought we would do it. Okay, so Sky, I'm going to ask you first.
All right, bring it on.
Are you ready? Mm-hmm. Would you rather have become a mom back when we were born, so like in the 80s, 90s, or now?
That's tough. Would I rather? I feel like, honestly, I don't regret anything about my past so far in being a mom, but if I could go back and do it back in the day when I was born, I feel like life was just so much more simple. Mm-hmm. And the expectations on moms was not nearly what it is today, or the expectation on just child rearing in general.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it'd be cool to do it back when we were born, like in the late 80s, 90s.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I think, well, also because I feel like I turned out pretty okay. And I know that there were challenges, like, you know, social media had come out when we were like a really important time where it really impacted
like teens.
Yeah. But I just feel like even the pressures now, like the things that I worry about for my son are extremely different. Like I'm just because of like how connected we are and everything. Like I just think that it's so much more heightened. Mm-hmm. And also you said about being connected, and like I see, I mean, if you subject yourself to it, which I feel like is always a choice, social media is always a choice, but like you see it and then you're like, oh, I'm instantly comparing myself. Like my child does this, or like, oh, they have this whole play area in their house. I should do this, but I don't have space, or like I don't have the money or whatever. So
the mom guilt is just like exponentially larger because you have so many more people to compare yourself to, like on a global scale, and
literally global.
So many people, access of information in your ear saying you're doing it wrong, you're doing it right. Da, 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 da. Yeah. However, I will say that I feel like there's a lot more communities today that support moms. A lot more things available to help moms through motherhood than there ever were. Like there's like this new thing, I think it's called Peanut for new moms, where you can like, it's like a Tinder for mom friends, and you can meet, or I don't even know if it's a Tinder, but like a match, or find other moms who are on mat leave, or, you know, going through what you're going through, and find friends. And I think that's so cool.
Community is so important. It takes a village, as they say.
Yeah. Okay, I'll ask you the next one. Mm-hmm. Would you rather go into motherhood with all the knowledge you have now, or go in blind, as obviously we both did?
I would go in blind still, because I feel like the more that you know, I feel like the more that you worry about, and the more that you like anticipate, and just all of these things, whereas like, and every single little human is entirely different.
So true.
And I mean, you have two, so like you know even how they're different.
I've done both now, because I have had one where I didn't know anything and then had a second. But you're very right. Like I thought I knew everything, and there were some things that I definitely was more confident in, just general things.
Sure,
but you never know what you're going to get. You never know what challenges you're going to have. And every kid is extremely different, which is mind blowing, because I mean, not all cases, but in our case, the same two parents have the same two kids, but they're completely different in every way. So I don't know how that works, but.
Well, I feel like, I mean, especially with us, we're always like, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And like, that's very our motto. But you really can't plan. Like, it's not something that you can plan for. You have to just trust your instincts as a person and as a parent, and trust that you know what's best for your child.
Yeah. So I think I agree with you. Like, it's just the anxiety level, honestly, just the naivety. How do you say that?
Nativity.
I'm saying the nativity seed.
The nativity seed.
Nativity of just not knowing, and ignorance is bliss in some cases. And I get it.
Yeah, that's fair.
Especially with the pregnancy part, and the delivery.
Oh God.
Not knowing what you're in for, and then knowing and then going through it again. Oh.
We will get into that.
Yes. Okay, last question. You want to go?
Yeah, I'm going to ask it to you. Okay, would you rather go into motherhood during a pandemic or not during a pandemic? Because we both started motherhood in a pandemic, but Skylar has the clarity of doing both.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a tough one because I feel like... because I had two very different children with two different babies and two very different, I don't know, situations, that my experience was easier for having a child during the pandemic. And I don't know if it's because I had a easier baby, quote unquote.
Right.
But for me, I had postpartum anxiety for my second child, which wasn't during the pandemic, which was related to all the, the amount of things I had to feel like I had to be at or do because it was not pandemic times. And of course the world continues on, and I'm like, okay, I gotta be out there. I gotta be doing things. And of course we continued our raise her stuff throughout my mat leave. So there's lots of events, there's lots of stuff. And I also had a colicky baby. I had a baby who didn't take a bottle. And I was new to breastfeeding because I didn't breastfeed my first daughter or my daughter. So it was learning so much and doing a lot of very public things that I wasn't comfortable doing, and screaming baby and having to do it. It just stressed me out.
Yeah.
And I'm very control freak, which there's zero control when it comes to babies. So not being able to control anything and then being out in public it stressed me out. So with my daughter, it was just couldn't do anything. So great. Didn't have to, there was no pressure. Just chilled and enjoyed it. And it was honestly not that bad.
And you didn't have to show off your baby to everybody.
No. And you had a reason to just do your own thing and really bond with your kid. And I had a couple, I met a bunch of women who were also having babies at the same time, and we all kind of just bonded and met at the park in our social distance blankets, and it was lovely. But the
social distance picnics really got me.
But no, I don't know. It's tough. It's really tough.
Yeah, I would say, not knowing not pandemic, but going into a pandemic. So Skylar's first child was born in January, and then the pandemic hit in March. So she had a little bit of time. Yeah. But had, rough, a month, rough birth and all that kind of stuff. And mine was born October of 2020. So shut down, really, really intense. And so I had so much anxiety throughout my entire pregnancy that when my son was born and he was healthy and my pregnancy or my birth was okay, then I was I had this huge sigh of relief, and I was I'm happy to stay home and do nothing and watch RuPaul's Drag Race and have a grand old time. Exactly. Yeah, interesting. I feel the hardest thing though was not having the support. You couldn't have babysitters or as much as you could now, or you couldn't go out because you needed a break as easily as you could now without the pandemic. But do you know what I'm seeing actually now is my son has a little bit of separation anxiety. I did as a child. I would always I hated sleepovers. I would always be Mom, come pick me up, I don't feel good. And I definitely had that. I probably still have that. But I think he has a little bit of that now too. And I'm not sure if it's also because of we were just always around him, and we never, he never went somewhere and was just okay, bye.
Yeah, so, totally.
All right, take us into the next part.
Yes. So first we want to talk about, we've shared a lot already, but let's talk about what you were most surprised by when you became a mom, or that something that no one tells you, you're not warned about, and you it was a big surprise. What are some of the things that stuck out to you?
Okay. I would say the actual process of becoming a mom. So the birth. People don't really tell you a lot. You go to the birth class and they're you have to remember it's going to be a lot of pain. And you're yeah. I've had cramps and whatever else. Nope. And then way more intense than any sort of cramps I've ever had in my entire life. But also I feel this is going to be really TMI. So if you are grossed out by things, skip ahead 30 seconds. But
just don't get pregnant. Yeah. Don't get
good pregnant. Luck. You are going to poop as you are giving birth. like if you're pushing, if you're having a natural birth, you are going to poop, and it's not going to be a good feeling, and you're going to feel really embarrassed, and the hospital team will be absolutely amazing. My mother was in the room because she's a registered nurse, and I was like, I need this calm like sense. Anyways, and she was like, so the nurse was just cleaning up because you pooped a little bit, and that's fine. I was like, Ma! Anyways, so
I didn't even know because I had like an really good epidural, and so I'm like, man, I'm like, what stings? I'm like, oh, me. I guess it's me. Whoops.
What stings?
I also had my mom in the room, but it wasn't her choice. She was like bringing me food or something at the 11th hour, and then they're like, "Hey, we got to push," and she's like, "Ah!" like hiding in the corner because she's not a nurse.
No, it's not her jam.
Yeah, my sister was there. I had like a whole peanut gallery. My sister was there for my first. Julius, my really good friend, was my nurse, and then like a whole team of residents learning, and everyone and their dog. I swear,
you had everyone learning too.
Yeah, that is one thing to note is that there are usually several people. So if you are shy, you better get comfortable with lots of people seeing your whole body, everything and anything, because that is the other reality.
Yeah,
it's not a private matter.
No,
not at all. And honestly, and when you're in the thick of it, you really just don't care. I mean, I don't know. I didn't.
Oh, I mean, after like the fourth person that like takes a peek down like the canal, you're like, who else wants to get in here?
Right?
Like, it's fine. Yeah. Okay. What about for you?
Yeah, honestly, so many things.
Obviously a lot.
I think for me, one of the hardest things that I never expected would be so hard is breastfeeding. I was very challenged with it. Like for my daughter, it took me forever to get my milk. I also had a pretty traumatic birth experience with her. Like I bled out. I had to get emergency surgery, and then so it took me a lot more time to get my milk. And then by that time, she had to be on a bottle, and then she didn't want the breast, and then it was just a gong show, and and then it was hard. And then with my son, it was also tough because like this is your whole life, and it's not so easy. Like some kids just latch easily. Some have tongue time, some have lip ties, some have all these other things that impact it. I've had mastitis. I've had all kinds of issues so many times, and it's just for me, it was very hard breastfeeding. Like it was not easy, and I don't mind it. Like if I ever have another, I would probably try to do a combination of both because it is very like convenient, but it is hard. It's not easy.
It's not an easy thing for sure.
Yeah, everyone's like, why don't you just breastfeed? Like it's so. I'm like, I'll try, but like, and then doing it and getting like shame for doing it, and you know all the covers and all the things, and I don't know. It's just it's hard.
Especially it's like I'm feeding my child. My child's like having lunch or whatever. Especially with the shaming you said.
Yeah. It's just that I think was really tough. And just like the fourth trimester in general. You know, you have all these like, oh, I'm in the second, I'm in the third trimester. Oh, glorious. These are all the things to expect. And then it's like, okay, the fourth, which means like your baby's out. But technically, babies are supposed to be like, I think like a lot of other animals are actually supposed to, but they're not fully developed until after the fourth trimester. So they're growing them for 9 months or 40 weeks. And then that's right. Then another 12 weeks or another like 3 months per se is when they're officially fully developed,
right?
In the sense that they're like all their stuff is kind of their bodily stuff is figured out. Like your baby at a couple weeks old, their stomach is the size of a peanut, their digestive system hasn't figured out, you know, so you don't know that, and you're thinking like they're just gonna sleep, they're just gonna do these things, but they can't. This just doesn't work. And so like I think they could be ideally in your body for 12 months, but they get too big and you can't physically push them out at that. So,
I've heard it's like an actual like biological thing of like humans developing, like humanoids developing over time, where like humans are actually like the weakest mammals because our babies, like, you know, you see like giraffes come out and they like walk 4 seconds later.
Like, exactly.
Yeah. And babies, like human babies, are so reliant and like are literally defenseless against all the elements, against everything. Like they can't feed themselves, they can't walk, they can't move, they like can't even open their eyes, really.
That fourth trimester. So
it's a time.
Learn about that. I feel like that's the most important thing to learn about, because you are having to do that versus like the pregnancy part. It's like you just kind of take it as it comes. There's nothing you can really do about it. It's just let it grow kind of thing.
Well, there's things that you feel like you can try to do. I think actually pregnancy for me, like as I said, I had so much anxiety during pregnancy because I was like, what's going to happen? Like, and also because you can't see what's going on.
Yeah.
Like I felt like I just had absolutely zero control. And so it was really, really overwhelming.
And you only ever get, like, if you're lucky, maybe 2 ultrasounds, unless there's something going on where they have to do more ultrasounds. So 2 or 3 ultrasounds throughout a whole 40 weeks is not much. And you're like, is my baby still, how's it going? What's going? Like, are they moving enough? I don't know. It's nerve wracking.
Oh, I was so thankful that my placenta was interior? Yeah, it was inside or no, wherever it was.
So you could feel the kicking and all that.
Yeah. It was good. Mm-hmm. Something that I think was really also shocking was like the lack of body autonomy until like he stopped. I mean, even really now, I feel like I have like no personal space.
Oh yeah.
But like, you know, like you're breastfeeding if you're able to, or if you choose to, or whatever that is. And like, you know, it's very magical and like that, everything else. And then after a while, you know, you're like, I just want to like go away for like 6 hours even and not have someone need my personal person to survive.
Totally. Just want to shower. I just want to take a nap during the day or whatever. Yeah. Not so easy. And for me, another big one is the hormone changes. Like, I think it says, I heard something the other day that it was like, it takes a woman like 7 years to fully be back to her normal hormone state. And when a woman, and so a woman goes, like your hormones or progesterone or estrogen, I don't know which one, drops as soon as you have your baby. You're like, you took 100 birth control pills and then you went from none to in one day. Like the amount of hormone fluctuations after you have your baby is nuts. And so I don't know. My hormones are still a little nutty, and I don't think they ever really stopped ever since. Because I have my kids are about 3 years apart, but like the things I cry at now, and like I can't even watch. I used to watch horror movies and stuff. I can't even watch that anymore. Like so many shows, and if it has kids or anything to do, I'm just like I can't do it. Like
it's too much.
Yeah. But just like honestly, the emotional pieces of how I don't know. Just there's like a real change.
I want to look it up because there's this thing I saw and it was really, really, it's really sad. But especially for women who have, or for anyone who, like any person who has miscarried, if it's up to a certain week or whatever it is, it's like that DNA, like that actually physically changes you. And that DNA is a part of your body for like the rest of your life.
Wow.
I forget what it's called. Let me look it up.
But it is pretty amazing, I will say. Like this little alien growing in you. And
okay, yeah. I always call babies, not always, but like when people are first pregnant and they're like, oh, I feel terrible. I'm like, because you have a parasite. Yeah. You literally have a parasite who's feeding off of you. Okay. I mean, I don't know if this is like, I'm pretty sure it's like scientifically, it's like a scientific study. So it's fetal cellular microchimerism. I don't know
the technical term.
What is microchimerism? It talks about how pregnancy actually changes your cells, and like those pieces of DNA are just then always in your body and like always are a part of you, which I feel like is like really heartbreaking to hear, but also like makes a lot of sense too. It just like changes, it actually changes who you are.
And I did hear that with every pregnancy you do change physically. Like you are never the same that you were before. Like your brain changes, your body changes, you have more hair, you have more moles, you have all kinds of your feet grow, I think. Everything changes. So many things change and that you don't go back from. Like they change forever, which is really interesting.
I've heard a couple of people say that their feet grew.
And I don't think mine did, but I hear that too.
Yeah. My husband's cousin was like, oh yeah, my feet grew like 2 sizes.
So wild.
Oh my God. Yeah. It's absolutely crazy. Can we talk about the like Instagram versus reality?
Oh gosh.
Hard knocks that we have?
Yeah. Where to begin? I feel like it all just adds to this supermom expectation of being the perfect mom, the perfect wife, having the perfect nursery, having like, and it starts with the day you get pregnant to, and when you announce the baby, to if you do a gender reveal, to the shower, to then the nursery unveiling, and then all of the things like your baby first pictures, and then all the announcements that you have to do, like the pressure to do all these things while you're trying to keep a human alive and keep yourself alive, to be honest.
Yeah.
not easy to do those things at the same time. And yeah, it's just,
well, like, and not that we are the same people, but like when Kate Middleton had her, she have 3 babies, I think.
I don't know. I think
or 4. I don't know. Anyways,
I don't know. Should know.
Some of her children.
Yeah.
Like she went and had a baby, and then like literally 3 hours later was like out on the steps, like perfectly coiffed in, and obviously there was a whole team of people who like helped her do it. But like 3 hours after giving birth, like I was wearing a full on diaper.
Oh, 100%. I'm sure she was too under her fancy outfit. But yeah.
Like imagine that. And then that's what you also see as like someone, you're like, oh, I'm supposed to be coiffed in a dress and like ready to present my child to the world. 2 hours later, 3 hours later, whatever it is, like it's just creating this like very, very unrealistic thing of
huge. Yeah. And then not to mention, as your kids get older and they start talking and you watch all the milestones and you're like, oh, well, my kid's not doing this or this. And you feel pressured to put them into all the fancy activities and all the, and if they don't, or you wonder, like, are they going to be as developed as others? Like all of those things, and how and when they hit their milestones and the comparison. And it's just like this overriding sense of guilt and the reminders that you should be guilty by the way that Instagram and just social media in general plays a role, and
that you're not quite doing it if you like don't have the, I don't even know what the fancy like stroller names are, like not Mamaroo, whatever.
Well, Mamaroo is a thing, like honestly, and I think there's like an industry built off of this anxiety and depression that moms have, where so many moms, like I don't know how many times I'd be up in the middle of the night, my kids screaming, and I'm like, I can't get them to sleep through the night, you know, the whole thing. And you're like, hey, I need this app, I need this thing, this special sleep sack is going to make them sleep through the night, and I buy it because like I'm desperate. Yep. And there's so much of that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of it. Well, we went through a few of the scary things for us.
Yes,
but they're obviously the surprises. But there's obviously a lot of good things that come from being a mom too, and some of the positives that were discovered. And I think one of the biggest things for me, and what I tell a lot of folks, is the amount of patience that I have. I don't think I was a very patient person before, but now I'm like, okay, you know, like let's go get our shoes on because we're going to daycare, and it takes like 20 minutes because, you know, he like needs to put his shoes on the exact way that he needs to, and he like sets them up, and I'm just like, okay, yep, we're just gonna do it, you need to do it, and like you just sit and smile. And like all the skills, I feel like you gotta just add it to your resume, just the amount that you learn as a mom. And like those moms, wow, like multitaskers, negotiators, creative problem solvers. Like they patience. Tell you to not negotiate with the terrorists, but you have to,
you gotta, like I'm telling you. But it's, and the creative ways to just get things done and go through the day, you just have to, like, honestly.
The creativity, all of it.
Yeah. And honestly, like some other things that I would say that are the positive surprises were really, you know, just the ability to enjoy doing nothing, but like just be silent and sit and snuggle and slow down and just enjoy and just not feel like you have to be productive in the traditional sense of the word. It's just so refreshing, because I feel like I'm always guilty of this, regardless, that if I'm not doing something, if I'm not achieving something, if I don't have a list checked off, like my day is wasted and I'm not, you know, whereas like that time when you're literally just with your baby and you're growing, like that is your only and your main job, and that's okay. And you don't have to feel pressure to do. I mean, there are some other things that we have to do, but the ability to just slow down.
You're allowed to just
so nice.
Stop. You give yourself permission to do that as well.
Yeah.
And I think with that, for me, one of the last things would be increased curiosity. Like the way that my son looks at the world, like we'll just like sit and like watch a car, like drive a car like back and forth like on a table, and is just like absolutely fascinated by it. And I have to like get down to his level, and I'm like, what are you seeing? What's happening? And then it's just so interesting. It's just like, what is his brain thinking about? Like, how is he processing this? It's just so interesting.
Well, and all the questions, like our kids are both of the like 3 and 4, where they're like, why this, why that, and it's like, how many times can you say why? But but then when you start to see them process and understand and like come to the conclusions that they come to, it's actually so smart. Like
they're very brilliant. So, of course, we learn a lot every episode through research. I've been keeping with the theme of this episode. Let's not forget the things that we learn from our moms.
Oh, yes.
The things that made us who we are today, and that are truly a very large part of why Raise Her exists in the first place, why we feel like we have, the capacity to do this and be parents and work full time and do all of that fun stuff. So we're just going to toss a few at you, and then hopefully you can share some with us on our various social medias of what your mom taught you.
And that share it with your mom too. That'd be the best gift of all on Mother's Day. It's like, Mom, I really love that you taught me this, or I'll never forget this. Thank you for teaching me that. Like, I can't imagine my child said that to me. I'd be like, oh. Tear to my eye.
She's already very emotional, folks. Yeah. Would just throw her off the edge. That's the tightrope she's walking. So I think one of the things is that we've talked about this a lot, but it's that you can have it all. You just can't have it all at the same time. And so, I mean, one of the reasons why we really connected was because our moms were very much like, not overly career focused, but definitely career focused and like intent on making a change and making a difference in the roles that they had. And so I definitely, my mom wasn't at every single recital that I had, and she wasn't even here on some of my birthdays, and she's missed, a lot of different things. But I don't look back at those times and be like, my mom wasn't there at my birthday party. I think back and like, she was being a badass doing like an international meeting in like South Africa and was making a difference in the world. And like that kind of presence is a lot different than what some people think. Like they need to be at like every single thing. And like, while that's obviously important, it's also putting yourself and like making sure that you have your own careers and dreams and all that at the forefront is important. Totally.
And it's that role model example of what it is to be a woman. And it's not just about being a mom. Yes, that is a huge part, and momming isn't for everyone either. No. But you are an individual. You still are allowed to have your own dreams. You're still allowed to have your own hobbies, and your life doesn't just exist for your kids as soon as you pop them out.
Yeah.
So I think just seeing that in our parents and our moms, that they're going after what they're doing it, but they're also with us in the moments that are very important. They're shaping us. We're watching them, and they know that.
Yeah.
And they really want the best for us as well. So they're giving that example of what they hope that we would be.
They're there when we're popping out babies, telling us if we pooped or not, Exactly. So it's all full circle.
But really, it's that strong built-in role model, that mentor, that, consistent person that you can lean on. And it's not just the moms, but I also think the people at the company they kept also were positive role models and shaped who we are, and mentors. So it's just like a whole domino effect in that sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
The other thing that I would add to this is just like, because our moms were both Talitha's mom in the healthcare world and my mom in the education world, we're very movers and shakers and kind of change makers in their industries. They weren't ever afraid to hide that part of themselves, that they were also moms. And so we often were like dragged to meetings, to like events, traveling around with them as well. And they embraced that. And that was important for them, and important for us to see that and see our moms in a different light. Watch them speak and watch them teach and watch them mentor other people and like hear the things that other people had to say about them. Like it's just so cool, and you just have a different level of, I think, respect.
Yeah, I think that was probably so like, it was so different than that in that time as well, because I feel like in that time working, it was like you are a worker and then you are a parent, and they are not the same, and you don't collide those worlds. And now like folks are very much so embracing the fact that like, your child is like screaming in the background. Like that's already happened multiple times while we were recording this. And you just go with the flow, and that's what it is. And you're like, yeah, I am, this job, but I'm also this person's parent, and like that comes first. And so I try to be as intent and like present about that as possible, of like, you pay me, and that's great, but like this is also who I am and this person's parent. And so seeing that and like going to meetings and them being like, like my husband had a meeting, and so Talitha's coming along with me to this board meeting, and I'd be like there coloring and like so annoyed.
Right? Yeah.
But like she's like, anyways, so let's just carry on with the meeting, and then she would like give people hell and like
Yeah.
It would be amazing.
Totally. It's just, it's the whole human. It's right.
Yeah.
Like that whole feeling of like, it's okay to bring your whole self and not be shamed or shy or hide them and keep them all separate. Like, no.
Yeah.
So no, I think I really value that. And the other thing was just the importance of all of those experiences in shaping your perspective in life. So like we both got to travel with our parents, be a part of those things where it just makes you have a different appreciation, I think, for what being a mom, a working mom is all about. And, you know, the perspectives that you have on what that looks like and your own expectations that you put on yourself when you get to that point in your life, if you get there. So,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, I think those are, so thanks, moms.
Yes, thanks, moms. We love you.
We love you.
We should have had you guys on here.
Yeah.
Maybe the next Mother's Day, you'll tell us about how we're doing.
Yeah, you can check back in 1 year and tell us what we're doing.
Exactly. So let's get into we did do a little bit of research around this episode. It's not just all our personal anecdotes. So let's share some of those with you. Some of these are just statistics about what's happening with moms today, and some are some scaries. Let's chat about some of those.
So some of the statistics and scaries that we researched and found were, first, that women are becoming moms later in life, which isn't necessarily scary, but it is interesting and honestly not so surprising. Mm-hmm. So compared to a decade ago, more women are becoming moms now. According to the data gathered by the Pew Research Center, 86% of women ages 40 to 44 have had children. That's up from 80% a decade ago. Yeah. In the last 20 plus years, the biggest group to see an increase in motherhood are women who have earned a doctorate degree. I feel like that's a really interesting stat. That's a weird way to say it, because like, I feel like it's not necessarily that women who have doctorates are now becoming moms. Like, I think that they're also getting doctorates younger. Mm-hmm. But I think that also more women are getting doctorates. And
for sure.
That's probably where this data gets skewed.
Interesting.
I didn't look that up, but we can look it up and report back.
I understand that one a little bit deeper.
Yeah. And also more women with bachelor's and master's degrees are also having children compared to a couple decades ago. But I also think that that's maybe just because more women are getting bachelor's and master's degrees than necessarily before.
And I think it might hold some truth to like the age. So women are prioritizing finishing their education, getting their first, masters and all the credentials before they decide to start a family, versus like starting it and then going to school or doing halfway through. Yeah. So it could be that too.
Yeah, definitely different times for sure. This also complements what you just said, which is that women who live in large cities are likely to wait longer to have a child, many into their early 30s. In contrast, women in rural areas tend to become mothers in their 20s. So I think the correlation and causation are not necessarily the same.
Well, even if we look at like celebrities these days, like I think Cameron Diaz just had her first baby
at like 50.
I don't know if she had it naturally, if she had a surrogate, or what was that one about, but like still, whatever, she's 50 and she had her first child.
Yeah,
there's so many, like Hilary Swank I think had twins like last year, and she's also like in her 40s 50s, like maybe what 50, but so women are doing it on like women on this silver screen, like where we're seeing like these people we look up to and iconic are all over, are doing it. They're doing it well. I mean, mind you, they have a ton of help and a lot of support and all those things, but they're doing it. So
they are doing
you can
it
too. And I think it's also pushing back this idea that, we have to choose. Like it's like you're 20 and it's like now it's time to become a mom and you can't do anything else. It's like, no, I'm going to do it on my terms. I'm going to freeze my eggs, or I'm going to wait until I'm not going to wait for a man. I'm just going to like have my own kid and, do in vitro or in whatever, all the things that are out there. Like there's just more choice and more freedom to do it your own way, which I love.
Exactly. Yeah.
So on top of that kind of statistical area, there's also some more statistics on this idea of the invisible load, which I fully, truly understand. So a survey of thousands of moms in the United States by Welch's grape juice.
Oh, I love that.
Showed that being a mom is equivalent to having 2.5 full-time jobs. 2.5 full-time jobs, and I believe it. Researchers also analyzed participants' weekly schedules and found 14-hour days were the norm for moms with elementary school-age children. They also found the average mom started their day before 6:30 a.m. and ended their daily childcare responsibilities after 8:30 p.m. I believe it.
Yep.
How much free time did this leave the average mom, you might ask? Less than 2 hours a day. And it might be time to buy the mom in your life a bigger gift. I'm thinking this Mother's Day, including me, because this is our life. And then what happens after that 8:30? Oh, we come in and do our podcast.
Yeah. Hey, we're here.
This is our life.
This is what we do. I mean, this is definitely a gift to ourselves that we can do something creative, but
totally,
it is work. Like, it's not
I'm not like turning off my brain and watching The Housewives that I would really, I really love to do that, but just not today.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I think, and my husband asked me, why do you get up so early in the morning? And I'm like, because it's the only time that I have like quiet and can do something for myself. So I'll just like get up and have coffee and read and just like have just even 45 minutes of just delete the time to do absolutely nothing.
Totally. And I mean, like you said, dads play a big role too, or your spouses. Like they're not immune to not having these, long days and then only having like an hour or two at the end of the day. It's just, I think, the different amount of load that women are expected to take on, that women naturally do take on, or that we guilt ourselves if we don't do. And there's so many pieces to this invisible load. But here's one that we don't really get the choice about, and this is breastfeeding. So a year of breastfeeding, and I mean, you do get the choice in this, but if you choose to breastfeed, equates to a conservative estimate of 1,800 hours in a year of breastfeeding. Compare that to a 40-hour work week roll with 3 weeks of vacation, and that is 1,960 hours of work. So basically, a year of breastfeeding is like a full-time job. So it is not a vacation, folks. I'm telling you.
And your boss in breastfeeding is not very cooperative sometimes.
Oh yeah,
and wakes you up at all hours. No,
could
no
be
vacations.
every other, and you can't just like enjoy life while you're breastfeeding. Like, it's tough. You got to do, like they're moving, they're squirming. Like, you're not just having a heyday. So yeah, it is a full-time job.
Yeah, absolutely. Ugh.
So in households where both parents work outside the home, there's some more data on this. 61% of moms handle most of the household chores themselves. 54% of moms manage their kids' schedules and activities. That checks. 55% of moms take charge of caring for sick kids.
Yeah.
62% of moms take less than 1 hour to themselves every day. When only dads work outside the home, so there's a stay-at-home mom, the distribution of household and child-related labor is even more unbalanced, which, I mean, no question. Very interesting.
Yeah, which I think leads us perfectly to the next point, which is that the motherhood burnout is very real. So nearly half, 46% of mothers are currently seeking therapy. And I mean, I think from even just like our mental health stigma episode, not a lot are even able to seek therapy. Probably 100% of mothers need therapy. Just to have someone to talk to.
Well, even just, again, it's taking the time for yourself. And I haven't even I haven't had a physical in like 5 years, like since I had my baby, because I'm just like, my kids go to the doctor enough. I don't have time to do my own things. Like, let alone sitting with a counselor talking for an hour and, So I believe it.
Yeah. I would
need to seek it, or they should, or they haven't. Like,
everyone should go to therapy. Yeah. The next is that 58% of moms report they are primarily responsible for the duties of running a household and caring for children. So again, those chores, all of that. 51% of moms say that they haven't gone out with friends or their partner without kids in the past month. I feel like very fortunate. I mean, we also have so many like raise her activities. So I'm like, okay, bye.
We actually just have that. But I can see that.
Yeah, for sure.
No question.
Nearly half, at 49% of moms, say that they feel burnt out by motherhood. I mean, we've talked about it before, but we both went back to work as quickly as possible after mat leave because we were both very burnt out and just needed a change of brain pace.
Oh yes, motherhood burnout. Well, I would say when we think about this, and I just want to stop here and pause and just give a big shout out to the stay-at-home moms and the stay-at-home parents, because I cannot imagine. Being on mat leave, that you're staying at home, and that is probably the toughest, like darkest times I've ever had, to be honest, in my life. And so I cannot imagine doing it every day, day in, day out. It is, I find going to work to honestly be a break. Yeah. Like a mental break. And like a physical break too. Like just the mental and the physical load and the body autonomy, all of that. Like you just get a break, which I need for my mental health. And I know not every woman or man or, is the same, but yeah. kudos to you, because that is honestly the hardest job, hardest role, and you're doing it all day long.
No vacation, no sick leave, no days off.
So nothing. Good for you.
Yeah.
But from our experience as working moms, let's dig into that a little bit and how that's impacted. So some of the data we looked at tells us that at the start of 2020, the corporate world was making strides towards gender equality and equity, with more women ascending to senior leadership positions than ever before. But then, boom, the pandemic enters.
Dun, dun, dun.
And suddenly, according to a survey conducted by Lean In and McKinsey and Company, 1 in 3 mothers considered leaving their jobs or downshifting their careers due to added burdens. And then it's like hitting the pause on the progress, of course, at the worst possible moment.
Yeah.
But when we think about what about the women who shift from working to parenthood? So Canada offers maternity leave through the Employment Insurance Program, EI, allowing eligible mothers to take up to 15 weeks of paid leave. And then you get parental leave benefits for mothers and fathers, allowing up to 35 weeks of paid leave, which, if you have access to it, is really incredible and supportive, especially compared to those in the States and other countries who have like zero.
Yeah. I feel like there's like 2 weeks.
Yeah, maybe.
It's insane.
But I will note in this piece, this is my own chime in on maternity leave top up, because I could go all day about this one. This was actually another surprise for me. I didn't even think about this. And when I started my career, going places that I'm going to work, you don't think to really look at the benefits. What's their top up? What's their maternity leave, parental leave benefits? You don't think about that until you're like, I think I want to start trying to have a child. What is that? And then you might be working for a place that has none. And so you're relying on EI. And EI, honestly, is like, for most people, not even close to what your salary will be. That means you're just relying on unemployment insurance. You're getting no additional top up to fill up and make what you're usually making. So you're going on a year where you've added another human to your family that you're responsible for. You're home all day long. So you're using way more energy, power, have higher bills, higher water, all of that, and washing like laundry 100 times a day. Yeah. Everything goes up, all your expenses. Yet you're making a fraction of what you made and you're expected to survive. And I'm telling you, it is not easy. And so a big surprise is like, you need to have savings to have a baby. Not to mention if you live in the States and it costs you like $10,000 just to have a baby in the hospital. Like,
you don't have health insurance or anything.
Yeah. So save up or, think about that, the financial impact, because it is huge and it's a big factor.
Yeah. Oh, it's huge. Yeah. It's very shocking.
Yeah. So aside from that, there's another elephant in the room, and this is the infamous double shift. So picture this, if you will. You clock out from your 9-to-5 job only to dive headfirst into another full-time job of household chores and duties. I know it too well. And guess what? Research shows that women are still carrying the lion's share of these responsibilities even when they're working full-time.
Yeah.
Not surprising. But wait, it's even more complicated. For single mothers, the struggle is amplified. I cannot even imagine.
Oh, God.
They are truly the superheroes. And I can't, especially like the grandparents, what we do without our grandmas and our grandpas and our aunties and all of the other support people that we have in our lives to help. I can't imagine even just being the solo parent, though, right? All of that village that you need to make life work.
Like the first few weeks of having our son, that's all I could think about was like, if I was a single parent alone in a city or wherever that I didn't know anybody or didn't have that like close network.
You didn't have your parents there.
Those people were like in my heart that whole time, because I know they say it takes a village to raise a child, but like it actually does.
Yeah. Especially as a new parent where you have no idea what you're doing. Questions upon questions. Like, it is rough.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah. Single moms are putting in those extra hours. I can't even imagine, not just at work, but also at home without, a partner or who knows what else, other supports to share that load. So it's like literally a never ending game of tug of war with zero breaks.
Yeah.
I just, my heart goes out to you.
Yeah.
And let's not forget the toll that this takes on their mental health, of course. Yep. There's the stress, the overwhelmingness, the guilt, all feelings that are too familiar for sure for working moms as well, trying to keep all these balls in the air. it's honestly like a walking tightrope, that there's no safety net and you're constantly like teetering on this edge of, am I going to make it today? Is today the day I'm going to break?
Fall.
Or what does the day bring? And you just never know what it brings when you have little kiddos. It's just every day's an adventure.
Yep. And
your mental state is very much directed on like what's happening with your with your kids.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like 100%. If they're happy go lucky, then you're like, oh, that's fine. And if they're feeling stressed or like dysregulated or unregulated,
or, you know, it's like change your whole day in a flash.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So what can we do? So we shared, I mean, a lot of our own personal stories, but some of the interesting statistics really around that, you know, that load, the burnout, all of those things. And so what can we do about it to help the mamas of today and into the future with this experience? And so they're a little bit less surprised than we are and ready for it. So here's some of the things that we believe should be implemented and things to look out for, especially those working moms who are applying for jobs or eventually considering having children or more children. Remember that when you're interviewing for a position, you're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you. So that's the first thing I would say.
So ask about those maternal benefits,
yes,
the top up,
look at all of that. Ask about it. I always remember being like so awkward because they're going to just like, as soon as I ask, they're going to assume I'm going to like get pregnant tomorrow and not want to hire me as well. But like, that's another red flag. Yeah. Honestly, if that's what you think that they're going to do. So no, ask about it. Consider what that looks like. Also ask about flexibility. So what does that look like? You know, if you ever do have kids on the road, if you pick them up at 3:30 for school, what does that look like? Do they offer those options? Yeah. Look at training, career advancement, educational opportunities, professional development. Look at generous leave and caretaker policies. Look at hybrid work options, or, you know, telecommuting or working remote. What are the options there that you might have? Look at career counseling, family counseling, all of these things that are of dire importance, I think, as we get into life more and more, and we see the demand for that. Yeah. And look at return to work programs. I have yet to see this in anywhere I've ever worked, but this is important. So what does that look like when I go back to work after a mat leave? How are you supporting me? Am I back full time? Like what's in place? And then if there isn't something, ask for it. Put your hand up to create something. Yeah.
Don't be afraid to create some ripples in the water. Yeah. So what about us as individuals, as a society? What can we do to support moms and parents? But this one is specifically for the moms. Well, aside from our own experiences and all the stats that we shared and, you know, the anecdotal stories, we know that the pressure of society on mothers is not an unsolvable problem. We can solve it. We can change it. We can make a difference. These are some of the steps that we can take to alleviate this burden and create a more supportive environment for mothers and parents. So specifically, we need to challenge the stereotypes and expectations imposed on mothers. Emphasize that there is no one-size-fits-all approach to motherhood and that every mother's journey is unique. And I know it's very easy to compare and especially when you're like, I'm thriving. And so this is fantastic. But just think about the fact that, you know, people are looking to you. I really like the shift, especially in social media, of like the real side of motherhood and all that, where people's like kitchens are dirty and like there are dishes left over, because that's my life. Next would be to encourage shared parental responsibilities when possible. If you're I don't even know where to start with this. You are in a partnership, if you are in a partnership. So like, put that partner to use. And
they're in this just as much as you are, and they should be, right? It takes two to tango and to have a baby, and so it should take two to raise that baby too. So let's keep that partnership alive.
It's two people, not one. Build a supportive community that celebrates diverse parenting styles and choices, devoid of judgment and parent shaming. I think the parent shaming is very alive and well, especially with all these like kind of new techniques. And if you're like a granola mom, or if you're like an iPad mom, or if you're the like, there's all these kinds of moms. And, you know, just if the child is, you know, alive and breathing and fed, that's great. And let them, the mom and the parent,
gotta lower the bar a bit. And just remember, if you're over like, oh, this is so, just like, how was I raised back in the 80s or 90s? I'm pretty sure it looks a little bit different than now, and I turned out okay. So your kids are going to be fine if they watch like an extra hour of whatever. It's not the end of the world.
I was watching like I mean, my brothers put on weird stuff and I wanted to hang out with them, and I turned out pretty okay. So and last is encourage mothers to prioritize self-care without feeling guilty. And that does not look like going to the grocery store alone, or like having a shower, or anything that's like a basic life necessity.
No.
Self-care looks a lot different for everybody, but you have to carve out time to do that and support people in doing that.
Yes. Like, it's probably one of the hardest things for a mom to leave a new baby and be like, oh, I'm going to go to the mall, I'm going to go get my nails done or get a massage or whatever it is. And it's hard. But if you're like, no, I got it under control, I'm going to do everything, show them that you can, and they will feel a lot less anxious when they're doing those things and willing to do them for themselves. So
yeah, absolutely.
So that is it.
That's it. That's all we got for today.
Spiel. So we hope that at least that makes you feel like you're not alone in some of the ways that you might be feeling if you're considering being a mom, or you want to be a mom, or you are a mom, or you just, this is just something that you've never thought about before. But as Mother's Day comes up upon us, just reflect on this. It's a hard, it's a challenging, it's rewarding, it's a beautiful role, and just check in on those moms in your life.
Yeah.
Whether it be your own, whether it be your friend, your sister, your anybody, check in on them, and parents, dads too, check on them too.
Yeah. So let them know they're doing a good job.
Yeah. Yeah.
That nice self-talk is really nice.
Totally.
Thank you for joining us today as we confronted these very terrifying but real life statistics and personal stories of being a mom and what that looks like in the world. Stay tuned for more ways to make a positive impact. Together we can make the world a little less scary for women and girls.
And of course, follow us on Instagram at RaceHerCo and Scaries.podcast, and on TikTok at RaceHerCo. And remember that change starts with awareness and action. So thank you for being a part of the Scaries community and making this world a little less scary to exist as a woman. Bye.
Bye.